Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. When Charles Bovary was 17, his parents sent him off to study medicine. Enrolling for his first term, the syllabus that he read on the notice board stunned him. Lectures on anatomy, lectures on pathology, lectures on physiology, lectures on pharmacy, lectures on botany and clinical medicine, and therapeutics, without counting hygiene and materia medica, all names of whose etymologies he was ignorant, and that were, to him, as so many doors to sanctuaries filled with magnificent darkness. He understood nothing of it at all. It was all very well to listen, he did not follow. Still he worked. He had bound notebooks, he attended all the courses, never missed a single lecture, but he failed completely in his examination for an ordinary degree. So Charles set to work again and crammed for his examination, ceaselessly learning all the old questions by heart. He passed pretty well. What a happy day for his mother. They gave a grand dinner. Where should he go to practice? To Tostes, where there was only one old doctor. For a time Madame Bovary had been on the lookout for his death, and the old fellow had barely been packed off when Charles was installed opposite his place as his successor. But it was not everything to have brought up a son and to have had him taught medicine and discovered Tostes, where he could practice it. He must have a wife. She found him one, the widow of a bailiff at Dieppe, who was 45 and had an income of 1,200 francs. Charles had seen in marriage the advent of an easier life, thinking he should be more free to do as he liked with himself and his money. But his wife was master. He had to say this and not say that in company, to fast every Friday, dress as she liked, harass at her bidding those patients who did not pay. She opened his letters, watched his comings and goings, and listened at the partition wall when women came to consult him in his surgery. She constantly complained of her nerves, her chest, her liver. The noise of footsteps made her ill. When people left her, solitude became odious to her. If they came back, it was doubtless to see her die. When Charles returned in the evening, she stretched forth 2 long, thin arms from beneath the sheets, put them round his neck, and having made him sit down on the edge of the bed, began to talk to him of her troubles. He was neglecting her. He loved another. She had been warned she would be unhappy, and she ended by asking him for a dose of medicine and a little more love. One winter's night, towards 11 o'clock, they were awakened by the noise of a horse pulling up outside their door. The messenger begged Monsieur Bovary to come immediately to the farm of Les Bertaux to set a broken leg. The general practitioner, riding along, gathered from his guide's talk that Monsieur Rouault, who lived at Les Bertaux, must be one of the well-to-do farmers. He had broken his leg the evening before on his way home from a 12th-night feast at a neighbour's. His wife had been dead for 2 years. There was only his daughter, who helped him to keep house with him. It was a substantial-looking farm. A young woman in a blue merino dress with 3 flounces came to the threshold of the door to receive Monsieur Bovary, whom she led into the kitchen, where a large fire was blazing. Charles went up to the first floor to see the patient. The fracture was a simple one, without any kind of complication. Charles could not have hoped for an easier case. Then, calling to mind the devices of his masters at the bedside of patients, he comforted the sufferer with all sorts of kindly remarks. The bandaging over, the doctor was invited by Monsieur Rouault himself to have a bit to eat before he left, downstairs with Mademoiselle Emma. Charles went down into the room on the ground floor. Knives and forks and silver goblets were laid for 2 on a little table. First they spoke of the patient, then of the weather, of the great cold, of the wolves that infested the fields at night. Mademoiselle Rouault did not like at all the country, especially now that she had to look after the farm almost alone. As the room was chilly, she shivered as she ate. This showed something of her full lips, that she had a habit of biting when silent. Her neck stood out from a white turned-down collar. Her hair, whose 2 black folds seemed each of a single piece.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?